Hey everyone, welcome! Today we're diving into a really fascinating idea. What if a system that's thousands of years old could actually hold patterns for today's financial markets? It's a journey that takes us from ancient starlight all the way to modern data. Let's get right into it. So let me just start with this kind of a wild question. What if the ups and downs we see in the stock market aren't totally random? What if they're following patterns that people were charting in the night sky thousands of years ago? I know it sounds a little out there, but it's actually based on a surprisingly logical process. And that process has a name. It's called rectification. You can think of it as just pattern recognition. For literally thousands of years, people looked up, they observed events in the sky, they took notes on what was happening down here on Earth, and they started archiving the connections they found. I mean, it's like a original data science, right? Building a bridge between cosmic cycles and human activity. Okay, now before we get into the 12 zodiac signs themselves, we need to understand the simple framework they're all built on. It's really just a system of two core components, 4 elements, and 3 modalities. Once you get these, I promise the whole zodiac becomes so much easier to understand. First up, we got the 4 elements. The easiest way to think about these is as the basic nature or, the temperament of a sign. You got your fire signs, which are all about intuition and taking action. Then you have earth signs, super grounded in sensation and stability. Air signs, they're all about thinking and communication. And last but not least, water signs, who experience the world through feelings and empathy. Every single one of the 12 signs fits into one of these 4 families. So the second layer here is what we call the modalities. Now if the elements are what a sign is, the modalities are how it expresses that energy. Cardinal signs are the ones that initiate action, they're the starters. Fixed signs, they're the ones that control and sustain energy, they're the stabilizers. And then you have the mutable signs, who adapt to change. They're kind of the finishers, the ones who handle transitions. So the key takeaway here is that every sign has exactly 1 element and 1 modality. Alright, now that we have that framework in place, let's go ahead and do a quick tour of the 12 signs. And as we go, you'll see how each one is just a unique combination of those building blocks we just talked about. And what's so cool about this chart is how it just lays everything out so clearly. I mean, take a look. You can see right there, Aries is a cardinal fire sign ruled by Mars. And right next to it, you got Taurus, which is a fixed earth sign ruled by Venus. See how that works? Each sign gets its own unique mix of a ruling planet, an element, and a modality. And that's what gives it its distinct personality. So let's start with the fire signs. These guys are all about intuition and action. First, there's Aries, ruled by Mars. She's the initiator. Think pure action, aggression, and a raw drive to be first. Then you have Leo, ruled by the sun itself. Leo is the star of the show, all about creativity, speculation, and being the center of attention. And finally, Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter, is the explorer, always looking for expansion, philosophy, and freedom. Next up, the super practical and stable earth signs. You've got Taurus, ruled by Venus, who we can call the producer. And its themes are straight up financial, earned income, saving money, and building security. Then there's Virgo, ruled by Mercury, who is the analyst, always focused on service, the tiny details, and health. And Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, is the CEO of the Zodiac, all about responsibility, status, and tradition. Now for the air signs, who basically live in the world of ideas and communication. We've got Gemini, ruled by Mercury, known as the messenger. It's connected to news, data, and communication. Then Libra, ruled by Venus, is the diplomat, focused on partnerships, balance, and legal agreements. And we have Aquarius, ruled by Uranus, the futurist, good out without groups, unconventional ideas, and of course, the internet. And finally, we have the intuitive and emotional water signs. Cancer, ruled by the moon, is the protector, deeply concerned with the security of the home and small family-like groups. Scorpio, ruled by Pluto, is the investigator, always digging deep into themes of power, control, and transformation. And Pisces, ruled by Neptune, is the dreamer, embodying fantasy, sometimes confusion, but also deep empathy. So, now that we've met all the players, let's circle back to the how. How did these signs even get these specific meanings in the first place? Well, the answer goes back to that historical process we mentioned at the beginning, rectification. This quote from our source material really just nails it. This whole thing wasn't about mysticism, it was about observation and correlation. It's basically a centuries-long project of human pattern recognition, just connecting celestial events to terrestrial ones. And this slide illustrates that process perfectly. It was really a simple 4-step cycle. First, the ancient observers would just watch the patterns in the sky. Second, they document human behavior on the ground. Third, they would correlate the two, noticing when certain things in the sky happened at the same time as certain events on Earth. And finally, and this is the most important part, they archived these meanings for future generations to test and to refine. You know, what's interesting is that the very idea of astrology itself is perfectly captured by one of the planets, Uranus. Uranus is said to rule those sudden insights, those moments of genius and making unusual connections. It's the planet of the aha moment, that feeling of waking up to a totally new and unconventional way of seeing the world. Okay, so we've got this ancient system, and it was built on pure observation. But how in the world does that apply to the 21st century, and specifically to financial markets? Well, this is where technology completely changes the game. The core principle of rectification is exactly the same, but the tools are, wow, they're worlds apart. Where ancient stargazers had to rely on manual observation and handwritten archives, modern analysts have incredibly powerful computer software and statistical correlation. We can now test these ancient theories against massive datasets with just unbelievable speed and precision. So why are financial markets such a perfect place to test these ideas? The answer really comes down to sample size. The market represents the collective behavior of millions upon millions of people, and a group that massive tends to react in more predictable ways to certain stimuli. And that allows these repeating cycles, these ancient patterns, to actually become statistically visible. Here is a conceptual example just to show you how this could work. You might find that the transit of Mars, the planet of action and aggression, is statistically correlated with periods of really high short-term volatility. Meanwhile, the Saturn transit, the planet of structure, could correlate with the market focusing more on long-term value. This is how you translate these abstract planetary meanings into real, concrete, testable market hypotheses. And that brings us to our final thought for today. The big idea here is that modern data might actually be able to validate patterns that humans first noticed thousands of years ago. So, if these correlations can hold up under intense statistical scrutiny in financial markets, it really poses a fascinating question. What other parts of our world are these ancient patterns influencing? That's something to think about.